Alright everybody, I'm just out for a little putt on the KLR, do a little 1,200 mile update. I'm actually at 1,285 miles. And as far as the bike performance, I have had no issues where it's had to go back to the dealership or anything to that effect. How is it performing? Very well, very happy with it. The motor was, now granted, I removed all of the rubbers. All the dampening is off of the handlebars because I've replaced those and upgraded them, and the foot pegs have no rubber mounts in them. But even with those being installed, I've noticed as the motor has broken in, I do have less vibes, in my opinion, at higher RPMs. That may not be the case with everybody, but definitely with me. A little ditch here. Suspension wise, you can see this trail's kind of rutted out, and I have ridden this bike at a fair pace on some whooped out areas, and I know a lot of guys that do reviews on the larger adventure bikes and that type of deal, they kind of slam the suspension on this KLR. But if you guys follow my channel, or ladies, you know what I ride, and I do ride bikes with good suspension and at, you know, a fair pace. And this KLR, the suspension to me is actually pretty good, and it's much better than prior models. The first and second gen, the first to me was better than the second, but this is definitely better than both. The suspension on this bike, I mean, I am, without gear, I'm about 205 washout, and I could ride the bike as hard as I would like to off-road, and I really never get slammed or bounced around. I mean, it definitely has its limitations, but I really don't, I mean, for what the bike is intended for and for what you pay for it, that's a new one. I mean, I am in no way going to bash the suspension performance on it for what you pay. I mean, most bikes like the CRF 250Ls, XT 250s, those, when I owned them, I upgraded the suspension immediately as best I could at a fair price. And this, I don't think I will ever do anything to it, unless I would definitely pack it down for a long adventure ride. I do have the tusk panniers for it, and if I would possibly load those down, I may upgrade the rear spring. As far as that goes, there is a little bit of when you brake, the front brake, you get a little bit of a whining noise, at least on this bike, when I come to a stop, and when the pads are applied to the disc, there's definitely like a strange, like, little whirring or whining up front on the disc. Usually I don't pay any attention to it, but sometimes I do catch it, and it's a little bit annoying. Brake wise, I mean, they're holding up well, and of course, it's like I said, some of the guys that are big on adventure bikes that do the reviews, they do complain about the braking on this, and it is a little vague to me if I'm on the highway or on the road and coming to a stop sign after a higher rate of speed. off-road like this, it really doesn't bother me. I actually think it does quite well as far as the braking. I'm going to try this way. You might see the bike get laid over for the first time going down here. Fuel mileage, I do apologize. I cannot really comment on that because I haven't, you know, done a check on it as far as filling it up and then running it near empty. Boy, a lot of trees and items across the trail since I've been up last. So I cannot give you a good answer to the fuel economy. I will say it does like to drink gas. I will say that. I can tell that for sure. Of course, I will stop here. I mean, if you're following the channel, you know basically what I've done to this bike. But geez, there's another little one. But I will stop here and kind of go over. That thing got thorns all over it. Get up. I will stop and go over what I have added to the bike and what I've done to it. I have to apologize. I haven't been on. These are trails right off of my property at the house, and I have not been on them for a few weeks. So there's definitely some trees down. We've had some hardcore rain since the last time I was up, so the trails are definitely a little rougher than before. Tire wise, I still have on, when I brought this bike home, with 0 miles on it, I put a Kenda Trackmaster 760 on the front and a Dunlop D606 on the rear. And both these tires have the 1,285 miles on them. And what I'll do here is when I stop, I will show you folks the tread wear on those so that you can see both how they're holding up after close to 1,300 miles of wear. Another thing on this bike, I know on the when Rocky Mountain ATV MC got one and did a small review on it, their bike, the fairings they had mentioned were rattling, the left and right fairings. This bike, I've never had that, thankfully, because it would drive me crazy. But I'm sure those fairings are just mounted on with a few screws, so I'm sure you could take it loose if yours was rattling and add some rubber washers or grommets or some foam tape and take care of that. And as you can see, this bike is fairly easy to ride off-road. And like I mentioned, I am not on the stock tires. Also, I hope I had a few guys really busting my balls about when I did a couple videos and I had a cold. I was sick and I was always clearing my throat. And there's a couple guys that really busted my balls on the throat clearing. So I apologize for that to whoever else I irritated with my constant clearing of my throat. But I wanted to keep doing videos even though I was feeling under the weather, so that's why I gotta watch here. I know there's some trees here that'll put me right down for the count in this deep grass. And I just recovered from a fall on the KLX 300. I was up probably 2 weeks ago in the evening. Was only going about 10-15 miles per hour, and the front wheel washed out. I went down and whacked my shin, even though I had my boots on. Whacked my shin, which I just did it again in the fairing. It still hurts like a bitch. And I also, my KLX 300 had the moose rack on at the time on the rear, and I fell backwards in the corner of that moose rack. Absolutely drilled my freaking taint, and oh, it hurts so freaking bad. Good Lord, I had to come home and get a bag of ice and actually shove it down on my crotch and sit on a bag of ice for an hour to try to take the swelling down on my old prostate. But that's actually doing well now. My shin just is still a little tender. That's why I'm actually taking it easy here on this ride. No issues as far as any running issues, no stalling, no cutting out. I do have a little backfire just because of the pipe that I have on here. Okay, hold on here, I gotta pay attention. No dash issues. See, even going down this hill, the rear brake is grabbing like crazy. It's almost too sensitive. The rain has really washed this hill out. Get a spot here where I can stop at the top of this hill. You can see I'm running a quad lock phone holder. I think I made a quick video of this, or maybe it was just Instagram, but make sure you get the anti-vibe attachment for this. I had this setup mounted on this bar right here, and I went for about a 15-minute ride. The first time I ever had it mounted on the bar with my iPhone 12, came home, it ruined my iPhone. When you would put it on to take a picture, the whole photo screen would vibrate. It's because it couldn't handle the vibration up here. Now, I've never tried this. After I purchased this vibration mount, I was scared to try it up here. I didn't want to have to get another phone, but I've had it on my handlebar ever since with the iPhone 12, and zero issues with it mounted on the RAM mount ball on this long arm on here. Now I got to get this ultra short. One of the complaints I have about this bike, this kickstand to me is about 1 inch too short. Right now the bike should be on the kickstand. You lean it over, it feels like the whole bike is going to fall over when you put it on the kickstand. That drives me crazy. There's a look at the bike. Now, like I said, I'll show you guys these, ladies and gents, these tires here. This is the Kenda Trackmaster 760. So this has 1,200, well, close to 1,300 miles on it. And it's probably hard for you to tell. This is 3 knobs here. The center one is about an 1/8 inch higher than these 2 side knobs. These Trackmasters are a very soft tread tire. But this one on the front's doing awesome. This thing is awesome off-road. I mean, tons of grip. You saw where I just come through. Now, there was no mud, but on the little gullies and everything, this really grabs onto the side of any of your ditches and doesn't let you slide down in. So that's doing well for 1,300 miles on, I mean, as far as I'm concerned. No shake or vibration. Then, of course, we have the D606 on the back. Probably kind of tough to see there. There is still a good ½ inch of tread left on these at nearly 1,300 miles. So I'm going to say you could probably squeeze 3,000 out of them. I'm at 1,300. I will probably run them until 2,000 to 2,500 miles is probably what I'll do. I don't like to run tires down to where they're slicks. I like to have traction and be safe when I'm off-road. Okay, and of course, I think everything else on here has been on a video, but I got the Delcovic 14-inch oval exhaust with the quiet core insert. I trimmed the tail up a little bit on the back of it down here. I have the Tusk pannier racks on there, which I have an install video for those when I put those on. I got the Harbor Freight mid-size cargo box on the back, bolted down. Rear sprocket, I am still running 1 tooth larger than stock on the rear sprocket. It to me, I also have a smaller front sprocket that I purchased, but I did not put it on yet because off-road here, even creeping like I just was, this is a really good setup. That 1 tooth on the back makes, to me, a noticeable difference for riding off-road. I have the KX450 fender on the front. I just don't like that pointed down beak on the factory one. 5-star Power Sports. Can you see that on there? If you're in Pennsylvania and you need a bike, get in touch with 5-star Power Sports. I think I may have mentioned that I moved this windshield up to the high position from the factory. At my height now, that basically throws the wind kind of right at just over the top of my visor on my helmet. I did install the 12-volt outlet. That's just an Amazon outlet. The other side over here, I have an Amazon USB outlet right here. Of course, that's not waterproof, so you got to be careful. I mean, they say they're waterproof, but it's not covered up like the stock one is with the large cover on it. Now, I did buy the Kawasaki relay, which you plug in accordingly for both of those. They're working fine. I put those in probably 400 miles ago. I've used them quite a bit for charging the phone as I'm going. They're working well. Double take mirror, rocks risers, Tusk, Chubb, fat bars, Enduro Engineering handguards. The bike, I can't say how they work yet. The bike hasn't been laid over. Cross my fingers. I'll probably do it as soon as I'm done here. I had a video on this vinyl I installed here in the side of the tank for protection. I'm probably going to put a piece of paint protection film at least on the center of this gas tank here whenever I get a chance. Oversized foot pegs right there. Those are, I had those laying at the house. They may have been off of my first gen KLR. I'm not sure, but they fit, so I put them on. They're much better than stock. And like I said, you do get a little bit of vibration. I mean, it still has the rubbers underneath here between the frame and the foot peg mount, so you have a little bit of vibration absorption there, but you don't have the rubbers on the top of the peg. Shifter, that's an extended shifter. I'm not sure of the brand on that. It may be MSR, but I cannot remember. I may have a video on that. Skid plate on the bottom. Enduro Engineering, their skid plates are awesome. They're heavy, well built. They got just the right amount of breather holes, not large holes to where debris can go through, but little slits. Is there anything else? You'll notice I did cut the balls off of both of my levers because they would have hit these hand guards. Now you could move the hand guards up or down slightly, but where I wanted them, the balls would have hit, so I just whacked them off. Took care of that. Double take mirror, right there. I run those on everything. They're awesome. But like I said, I've had no bolts coming loose, no pieces falling off, nothing vibrating, coming loose, that type of deal. Everything's going well. The bike still, there was, I'm going to say 500 to 600 mile mark. There were, after I put the exhaust on, there was occasions where, say I had been on the road in the bike, I stopped for 15-20 minutes. When I would get back on the bike to start it, it would fire up, run for 2 to 3 seconds, shut off. I'd hit the starter again, it would fire right up, run good forever. So I don't know if that's a little issue with the airflow and the fuel injection, not kind of the O2 sensor not figuring out the flow with the new exhaust. But that only happened for a short period, and I haven't had it happen since then, so that may have squared itself away with break-in. Oil, I have checked the oil. It seems like it's basically staying where it was after my first oil change, so I cannot say that the bike is burning any oil. Now, I haven't done the longest stretch I've done, probably at 65 miles per hour, I'm gonna say is probably 8 to 10 miles at one time sustained. So I'm not somebody that's on the highway running this thing at 75, 80 miles per hour to say if it burns oil at that higher RPM at that speed. But it's maintaining well for what I ride. And like I had mentioned, brakes doing well. No wheel damage, no loose spokes. Seat is good. I've done some hour-and-a-half long rides. The seat does well. It's very soft and comfortable. I mean, I will not do anything with the seat. I think it's doing just fine for me. Cables have been good with putting the bars and the risers on. I've had no cable binding issues there. Lights all working well. And I'm very pleased with the bike. I mean, for what you pay for it and for what I expected to do with it, I've taken the thing in a lot of places where I take all the other bikes, and it does well. Of course, you're not going to do certain things that the other bikes can do just because it's too big and too heavy, but the thing does awesome. I mean, for what you pay for it compared to a $12,000 to $15,000 bike that's kind of in somewhat the same category, I'm not complaining. I'm not going to bash the bike at all. It does, for what it costs, it does everything that I would expect it to do, and probably a little bit more for a big single-cylinder thumper. So if you have any questions or comments, put them down below. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe. It helps me out. And we'll get more videos coming, and possibly a new bike here coming up in the fall or over the winter. We'll see what the companies bring out and see what we're going to get. See you later, folks. That is grassy. Oh,